It's kicking on my phone. Yep, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
You see, oh, be showing that. Oh, there we go. We're live. We're live. My fault for the technical difficulties. Professor Black Ops kicking off cybersecurity for the people. I have a special guest, a longtime friend of mine. I'm trying to force her to be a weekly guest, people, but she's pushing back. I'm gonna need everybody to help her out. This is Meredith Hammer, longtime friend, Chicago native. I guess before we kick off the article that we're looking at, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, first of all, I'm not a Chicago native, as you know. I'm an
Facts.
Indianapolis native. I currently reside in Chicago, but I was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. And, really around the corner from where your house is, Um, Grew up in Indy, went to high school, went to Purdue and West Lafayette, and then I went to law school at IU in Indianapolis. And been an attorney for over 20 years, primarily focused most recently of the last, 10 years, I would say, in real estate. But I also have a background in software development and computer science and software development, which is where I met you in the techie world. So currently in Chicago, private practice, own practice here, and just working my way around the courts of Illinois, planning on running for judge in Cook County election in March of 2022. So I'm excited to be here.
We're excited for you to be here. And I know you're going to make a fabulous judge in the future. So,
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know about this weekly thing though. We'll see. I gotta get my feet wet.
I know.
I'm on camera. I had to, put on a certain outfit and look a certain way.
Facts. Facts.
You kill me with that facts.
Facts. Nah, I just wanted to throw that out. I know you're busy. We talk almost every other day. I know you're busy. I'm not trying to hold you down to that. Just hopefully my wish. Long story short, shout out to the people on my channel. The third leg of my channel is doing society, big issues, digital divide, facial recognition, privacy. So I want to bring on an attorney to help me with those issues. And this, of course, is my attorney of choice. So that's why I'm trying to talk her into coming on the channel more so we can talk more about big social issues that relates to technology, cybersecurity, privacy, legal, justice for people of color, justice for all people. So I'm trying to get to some of the bigger things on my channel. So that's why I'm trying to talk her into coming on people. So that's one of my charges. So I read this article and we kind of talked about it. It's on screen. Trained firms got slammed over phishing test. So long story short, I'm just going to do a synopsis of the article. The firm did a phishing test to test cybersecurity to see if they can trick people into clicking on a fake email like they would when they got a virus or malware. The problem is this company went a little overboard because the phishing email stated something talking about a one-time bonus. So the one-time bonus in the middle of a pandemic, I think, is an overreach or plainly not very nice of a company to do that. So my question to Attorney Hammer is if I read the email and I thought I was getting a bonus, and I actually made some decisions like I was gonna get a bonus. I told my wife to buy something or I bought something because I didn't know it was a phishing email. Does that make that email a contract between me and the employer? The second part of that is now you can tell if an email is an internal or external. Since I know it's an internal email and I'm pretty sure it came from HR, does that make that phishing email a binding contract between me and the employer? is the overlying question.
Yeah. So, and we kind of briefly discussed it, because as you got a little bit of knowledge in the
Hey,
legal realm.
ease up on me.
You
Ease
know
up
me
on me.
for what? We've known each other for about 25 years or so.
About
So,
25.
you guys, every time, John, he definitely knows enough to be dangerous when it comes to legal.
Facts.
He's shaking his head, but
Facts.
so I was, he woke me up this morning with the text talking about if I move my position, can I? And I'm like, what? So I
Uh-oh.
think what he was
Back
getting
up.
at,
Yeah, hit him with the estoppel. Give him a little background on the estoppel.
right? So I think that's the issue is, does it, like he said, does it create a contract? So there is something in the law called, there's a legal term called promissory estoppel, which means if there's a promise, right, a promise to do something based from one party, right, to another party, and the other party, actually moves their position or takes action, right? So, for example, in this situation, the promise from the employer to pay a bonus to the employee, and the employee goes out and makes a big purchase based on that promise and moves their position, and they're bound and obligated to to pay some money, then the law creates a contract between those two parties based on what's called promissory estoppel. The party that does the promising is stopped or prevented from not doing what they said they were going to do with the promise, if that makes sense.
Facts.
So that's the question, and that's the question. When we discussed it, I said, well, there are phishing scandals or phishing emails that can come from, I get phishing emails all day long. I got some today, and so I said, well, my question to you was, do you think that creates a contract? And then we sort of got into discussion about the special relationship, special nature of the relationship between the employer and the employee. And you said that in the email that was sent to the employee, that they could identify it as being an internal email, correct?
Yes.
So they understood that it was an email coming from their employer, where there was a relationship and a trusted relationship created between the two. So, I would have believed in myself, and I don't know if I would have went out and made a purchase, but I may have, planned a trip or something. I may have put a deposit down on the trip because, as it's much needed for me right now. I need to go someplace. To DR would be nice. So I could have seen me doing that. And I think you said that one of the employees actually did do that, correct?
No, they
Did
didn't
they
do
put
that.
that?
No, that was me reaching.
Oh, yeah, that was your story that you made up.
As an attorney, you got to make up a case and a vision. So that was
Hypothetical
a
situation,
hypothetical
right?
situation.
So I don't. I mean, it could certainly, create a contract. But then the question, becomes, because you say, can I sue? So you can always sue, but then suing, creates a whole nother situation. You hire an attorney. If you win, can you collect the judgment, all that kind of thing. So then we got into discussion about labor and employment, and employee handbook and employee manual, and if there is some sort of disclaimer in the employee handbook that protects the employer if they do something like this. I don't imagine there is
Facts.
something there, but maybe there is.
Most people
But
don't think of cybersecurity in the handbooks.
yeah, absolutely. So you know, work more work for you there. To create something, a provision or some sort of whole chapter in an employee handbook that would actually speak to this this type of issue. I guess the main subject of the article was the content that goes in these kinds of email. I just think this was a crappy email to the employers, especially during these times, and especially with this company, because it sounded like, based on the reading of this article, that the employees were frontline workers.
Yeah, it seemed like it. It's a train company, so it did seem like they were frontline workers. So
in the pandemic. So yeah, so that was kind of messed up. People are, it's just, tough times right now. People are suffering from mental health issues. People are dying, family members dying. And so there's all kinds of issues that are coming up. And then you promise somebody some money, and then they, but it's a phishing scam. It's kind of messed up to begin with. So they may see some potential lawsuits coming out of it. I don't know. We'll see, but it's not.
Since you're a good friend of mine, I like to sue everybody.
Right. So that's John's. Can I sue for this? Can I sue for that? I'm like, well, you can, sue. And we may see a lawsuit out of that. I mean, honestly, I think you were on point when you said the union actually made a comment about it. The union for the representative employees made a comment about the content of the lawsuit. So it'll be interesting to see how the fallout from that.
I'm gonna do a quick shout out to the chat box. Shout out to Lamel. Shout out to Hova, Mitchell, Tiny in there causing problems. My man keeping tech in the house. I'm glad for everybody to show up.
I can't see the chat. Why come I can't see it?
Because we're on another piece of software. You got to be on the YouTube channel to see the chat. Tiny, I'm gonna get to your question. I'm gonna tell my attorney this question. She's gonna laugh. Tiny wants to know, can he still works from home if the employer tells him to come back in? Do not answer that question yet, Miss Hammer. Say that for me. We work together, so he starts to scrap. Now that's my man. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's your coworker. Okay.
I call him Tiny in the house. So the question is, we're gonna say this for the end. If the employer tells him to come back, he wants to know, can he still work from home? And what is his recourse for working from home? But let's get back on that penetration test. So, long story short, if you just came in, somebody did a penetration test with an email stating that the employee was going to get a bonus. Everybody got excited. So the question was, like Meredith Hammer said, my mic is low. Meredith Hammer said is, like she said, I think your synopsis of that was better than mine. Is if I scheduled a trip because I thought I was getting a bonus, and I moved my position, could I sue the company at least to pay for my down payment of my trip that I thought I was getting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, like you said, moving your position. So moving your position means that you scheduled a trip and maybe even paid. I think you would have a better argument if you actually put some money out, right? That bound you, to so let's say you did do that, and that's the hypothesis. You did do you scheduled a trip and you paid $500 towards this trip, and your bonus was $2,000 that they were promising you. Mm-hmm. So your question was, can you sue? Well, yeah, you probably can. But then the real question is, do you really want to sue? Because likely all you're going to get, right, if you sue is maybe $500, your $500 back.
And 5 hours free time is way more than $500, right? You got to pay your attorney, so that would be a cost-benefit analysis for me to sue.
And that's what I always do. I always tell people that we need to really kind of take a look at and do what I call a cost benefit analysis on it, because my fees are, and a lot of attorneys, what we do, unless someone is willing to do a pro bono, attorneys charge by the hour.
Pro bonos.
It's hard to do pro bono in today's environment, just because of, just the lack of work and the lack of income. But yeah, this is actually a pretty good portion of the conversation to be had with an attorney, because I think a lot of people don't understand or really it doesn't sink in until they're in it, that the attorneys work on the hour. In most cases, attorneys have to be retained, and there's a retainer, right, that is charged up front, not after the work is done, but up front. And then we draw down from that retainer once we actually do the work. So I charge $250 an hour, for example.
Ooh.
You know, $750 retainer, that's 3 hours worth of work.
Oh my God, it hurt my
Right.
heart. Can you say that once again so the audience can hear that again, Miss Hammer?
So I was saying that attorneys, you know, we charge by the hour, and there's a retainer that is often required in order to retain, right? An attorney, there's a retainer that's required up front, and it's based on an hourly rate. So I charge $250 per hour, and I'm pretty inexpensive. You know, I will tell you, I'm pretty inexpensive. So $250, because a lot of attorneys, you know, charge, you know, up $300. We're up to $300. More than that, if you go into mediation, it can be up higher, as high as $395, $400. I was talking to posting counsel the other day. We were looking at hiring a mediator. $395 is what it costs, but that's kind of another conversation. But $250 for me per hour. 3 hours retainer, that's $750 to retain me. That's 3 hours worth of work.
Facts. So I guess for everybody in the chat, or everybody's gonna view it after the live stream. The article is actually in the description, of course, so you can see the article. So I guess we're gonna summarize the article. I guess the phishing is, when you do a phishing email, I think it should be reviewed at least by upper management, which this was.
Yes.
It's hard for me to say I need to have my attorney review phishing emails. So I'm trying to think of what
you need to have in-house legal counsel. You probably should have, and this company probably does have, in their HR department, they may have a labor and employment counselor, who should have reviewed this. A labor and employment attorney.
You think that should have looked
Yes, because the content of it, because yes, because it's like I was saying, you know, this is really an opportunity for the employer to try to protect themselves from a potential, you know, lawsuits where they come back and say, I think that, you know, certainly the labor and employment attorney, you know, should be kept in the loop on the content for sure, and all of these kinds of things. Why do you think? Because you're like, wait, even on that?
I mean, I guess because, you know, my company, we do these type of tests. We go out now. Ours is usually so basic. It's usually like, here's a Target coupon, here's a Kmart coupon. So I don't think I don't think our in-house counsel looks at it. So that's kind of why I paused. I guess this company went overboard with the overreach with that one-time bonus in the middle of a pandemic. So I don't want to jump to a conclusion because attorneys' times are expensive, right? So that's kind of my balance.
They don't have in-house legal. That's the thing. You have in-house legal.
Their time is still expensive. I mean, if I use them,
well, who looks at the freaking content? Who looks at the freaking? So
I think CISO. I think the computer. I think the Cybersecurity group did or does, I believe. Or sometimes you pay an outside vendor to actually do it.
I mean, so nothing is run by legal?
I don't think we run everything by legal. I just don't think we run the phishing stuff by legal. I mean, I talk to legal, and my man in the chat, we in legal all the time. We send NDAs to legal, because at first I wouldn't send an NDA to legal. They're like, dude, you could be signing us for something we don't even recognize. I go, uh-oh.
Well, here you go. So that's the thing. This is another opportunity for legal. We are very well needed. I need you. You know, I think that it is an opportunity for, you know, legal and technology to merge. That's the reason why we're having this conversation. Because you pointed it out. Yes, I do think that this is another opportunity for the content, you know, for the technology, you know, content to be run by legal. And of course, I would say that my background is in technology and legal. I'm an attorney.
That's why I got you on the show.
Right. Exactly. So, I'm definitely, yeah.
So I mean, I think I stop. I think I'm changing my position on that now. I think I'm moving a little bit on the review. So let's mosey on over to remote work. We're just gonna touch that a little bit. I know we doing this on the fly. So what's your thought pattern of working from home, the new
Okay.
paradigm with the pandemic? What's your feel? I think it's a good thing. I think we're efficient. I think we've been talking about this for 20 years. Um,
hmm
so what's your opinion on it?
I mean, I love it. I love the opportunity to be able to work from home. I love the opportunity to be able to serve as an attorney working from home. It is, I have a lot of different reasons, at the top of the list, uh, savings, cost savings on travel for sure, for attorneys, for the litigants, my clients, a great opportunity for them not to have to take off work. They can jump on a Zoom hearing, that's only going to take about 30 minutes or an hour. They can get right on over lunch hour. I can practice in Indiana and Illinois and DC, those three jurisdictions I'm licensed to practice in while I'm sitting at home. So I love the idea of being able to do, work from home and do virtual work. I don't think it's not appropriate in all cases, but I definitely love the idea of being able to do that.
Facts. The chat box said, did Miss Summer teach previously at IUPUI? I know the questions to that. I'm gonna let you answer. So somebody might know you.
I did.
So,
I did. I have some stories related to that too. I did. I taught at IUPUI and Ivy Tech.
shout out. So yeah. So maybe somebody's had you in a class, or so it's interesting that they specifically asked that. So I guess the question is, um, if you feel like other people in your employment has the ability to work from home, and you don't believe you fairly being denied from working from home, do you have any recourse in that area? Did that make sense?
Kind of not, but I think I understand where you're
Yeah,
going
you
with it.
got me. You got me.
Because as you know, I worked for the Clerk of Circuit Court, and I was the labor and employment counselor for in the human resources for the clerk, dealing with a lot of, especially during the pandemic, work from home, FMLA, ADA accommodations, and working from home. There was a lot of conflict there, particularly within the clerk's office, because a lot of our clerks really couldn't work from home because they could not perform their work duties at home, not because they weren't capable of doing it. So, you know, the laws are changing as it relates to the pandemic. So I don't think there is like a bright line rule, with regard to that. I can say underneath what I know about, like, ADA in particular, under the American with Disabilities Act, and I have not, looked up that particular law in about 3 months. The last time I, was focused on that was back in February, when I was still at the clerk's office. But at the time, I know that the direction that that the federal government was going with that was, if you had a disability under the umbrella of the pandemic, in the CDC, what the CDC classifies as disability as it relates to, like, COVID and your ability to contract COVID, then you would could consider to have a disability. And in that regard, your employer is obligated to offer you the opportunity to work from home if you can indeed perform those job duties at home. So I think underneath the ADA, and provided that you would have a disability, as defined under the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act, then you could potentially have a claim against your employer if they require you to come back into the office when you can work from home. That's what I would say. So Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
I mean, you would sue under the Equal Employment Opportunities EOC. You would sue your employer. You would have to hire an attorney and sue your employer. You know, to be able to continue to work from home.
Right. So, yeah. So that's the issue.
And that's what people did. People did that. People did that all day. Employees did that all day long. Like I said, when I worked at my previous employer, if we did not allow them to work from home, and they could work from home, and they had a disability as defined under the ADA, rather than coming into the office and getting sick, right, and contracting COVID and potentially, dying, that was, one of the consequences to coming in when you didn't have to come in. It didn't make any sense. So I was definitely an advocate of continuing to keep people out of the office and not require them to come in. What's Tiny saying?
He's laughing. He said he just put a little smiley face in there. He's taking it all in. Cause you up in the legal game right now, so it's all good.
Maybe I would go to I have some websites. I don't have them off the top of my head because I didn't know this question was coming up. There is a.
You coming on next week? It'll be all right. We'll put the links next week.
I'll have them next week. The sites that you need to go to that I would check regularly, in the clerk's office and be able to, advise the clerk, the clerk's office, the executive staff, as well as the employees.
No, it's all good. I think he said he took your CIT 106 class and he loved your class. He's giving you the big head. He said so.
Thumbs up.
She retired. She got me in the teaching game and she retired from the teaching game. So.
Yeah, 106. I think I taught that at IUPUI or something like that. Yeah, I think so.
It was IUPUI.
Okay, that's funny.
So, like I said, go ahead. So I'm gonna wrap it up. I just want to make this something short. I want to get Miss Hammer on so y'all can see her. Like I said, I'm a drag her in and coming on once a week. I want to make it difficult. Some of the things we're going to talk about in the future is privacy of facial recognition. Facial recognition got this black dude arrested in Detroit because it didn't match up. So whether that's correct, we're going to talk about privacy, Airbnb and while black, the digital divide. So we got 2 or 3 or 4 big event items that we're going to bring her on in the future. So this is something I just want to do short for this particular item. We were just chopping it up today, so I actually wanted to come live. If anybody got any other questions, just shoot them in the chat box. Like I said, I was going to make it short. Sorry for the technical difficulties I had today on my YouTube. I'm still getting a little better on it. I'm still working on it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm getting used to it. I'm getting my feet wet. Bye, everybody.
Everybody have a good night. Cybersecurity for the people, Professor Black Ops. We are out.
Cybersecurity for the people.